Hi, my name is Nicholas. Welcome to today's 25-minute yin practice in my Wallflower series. So for today's practice, most importantly, you'll need a wall space. Give yourself as much room as you can. Personally, I have some plugs and plants and stuff going on here, but just give yourself as much room as you can. For yin style practice, I like to wear socks. Also, if you want to wear any extra layers, you won't be sweating at all during this practice. And as far as props, basically have everything you have nearby in case you need it. If you don't have bolsters, if you have like a thick sham pillow on your bed or maybe a couch pillow, something like that might work well. Any form of a hard block, soft block, just so that when you're in the shapes, if you can make yourself feel a little more comfortable, it's definitely worth it. And we'll get started on the back for today. So when you feel ready to come on down, I like to bring a soft block or something up against the wall, at least to begin with the first couple of shapes. I find having that little boost can make them feel a lot more comfortable. I scooch down next to it, just along the wall, getting my bum as close to the wall as I can, kind of in a fetal position, and bringing the legs up towards the ceiling, rolling onto the prop as best you can, and then just make sure it feels comfortable. If you chose something that's a little bit firmer, you can always swap it out with something softer, or make sure that it's working for you. If you like to remove it altogether, that's fine too. And then extend the legs up towards the ceiling, any version of this, and you can choose to have the knees bent here, or maybe you want to have the legs extended. At any point, you can shift in between the two. And sometimes it's nice to add a little bit of weight onto the feet as well. So I use a bolster for this. It can just feel pretty grounding. Bending the knees in towards the chest, putting the bolster on, and then just carefully sending it back up. Choose the distance between the feet that feels comfortable. Find a comfortable position for the arms. Anywhere on the body, beside the body, overhead. Gently start to wiggle your fingers and your toes. Bring some movement back in. When you feel ready, bend the knees in towards the chest. If you were using a prop, move it out of the way, and then re-extend the legs, extend the arms. Give yourself a stretch here. When you feel ready to, bring the knees into the chest and just give them a hug there for a moment. You might choose to remove prop if you have one under the hip so you can rock gently side to side a few times. From here, we'll set up for butterfly pose so you can bring the soles of the feet together, or at least the heels together, and then check out where you'd like to place the arms. I like to use them almost as stilts. You can also use props if you have them nearby. If you don't need the hands for support, feel free to take them overhead. Or if you have some blocks, you might choose to use those to support the knees. Take your time to get comfortable, whatever you're choosing. Coming out of the pose, you might use the support of the hands to guide the knees back together. Maybe taking feet to the wall, a gentle windshield wiper side to side. Play around, see what feels good for the hips. And from here, cross the right leg over the left. And we'll slide the feet down towards the sides for a version of cow face pose, shoelace pose. I'm choosing the variation where the shins stay parallel-ish to the floor. Another version of the shape, you might guide the feet a little bit closer towards the hips. Target slightly different parts of the leg, so see if that feels better for you today. There's also the option to take a one-legged version. You might extend the left leg straight up towards the ceiling, and either variation with the right leg. You might even separate the feet a little bit differently here, maybe a figure four shape for the legs if that feels more comfortable. And then once you've chosen your shape and settled yourself in, make sure that the hips feel evenly supported if you need any props underneath. Choose a comfortable arm expression here and settle in for a few deep breaths. coming out of the shape, just any way you like to come out. We'll take the second side right away. If you need to stretch it out beforehand, go for it. Each side tends to feel a little different, so you might notice that this side needs something a little different. All the same options are available, sliding the feet closer to the hips, any of the one-legged variations as well. I would generally take the same blueprint for whatever variation you took on the first side, but please add in any extra props that you need to make it feel more supportive. Coming out of the shape, any gentle stretches, windshield wiper, anything you need here. If you need to pause, if you like to bring the knees into the chest, give yourself that squeeze. It's almost like child's pose, but on the back. For this next shape, we'll take a wide-legged stance. So make sure you have enough room. You can always do one side at a time if that works better. But if you can give yourself enough room, even if you need to negotiate stuff like I am, go for it. If you have two kind of even props, you might use them to hook the feet if that feels supportive for you. Sometimes just having the legs hang there might not feel like enough. Another option is if you have some blocks nearby, you could use those for support anywhere along the legs. Once you settle in, reach the arms up overhead and then start to walk the hands towards the top left corner of the mat, finding a little bit of a side body stretch for the right side here. And if it feels comfortable to have the arms extended like this, then keep them like that. You can always bend the elbows as well or cactus the arms. You can always turn the head to one side as well if that would feel more comfortable. As you feel ready to, you can start to walk the hands back to center and slowly taking the hands over towards the top right corner of the mat, starting to set up for the second side. And again, take that moment to make sure that everything feels comfortable here. If you need to even change something up with the legs, you're welcome to do that. See, maybe this time you even need a little bit longer, but as you feel ready, start to walk the hands and the torso back to midline. For the last minute in this shape, find any comfortable arm expression. As we've been in this pose already for a couple of minutes, you might find that the legs need something a little different, so feel free to change that up at any point. And when the time comes to exit the pose, see what feels best. You might bring one leg up at a time. You might use the arms to bring the legs up together. Maybe you want to bend the knees first. So just take your time. We've had this shape for the hips for about 3 minutes. And then happy baby pose might feel nice, a nice complementary shape. Maybe a gentle rock side to side. From here, we'll set up for a twist. So again, make sure you have enough room. And the first variation I'm going to show is a little bit more intense. So it's a straight-legged twist. You might choose to have a prop kind of along the wall where the feet are going to land, just so that there's something there to catch them if the floor is a little far away. This can feel quite intense, so don't worry about having the legs straight if that doesn't work for you. If you prefer to bend the knees any amount, then you can. You can also use your bolster a little differently, maybe bringing it in between the knees. That might feel more supportive for the pelvis. If you are bending the knees, you might need to orient the torso a little bit differently, maybe pointing the head a little more to the left. Just make sure that the low back especially feels supported here. Once you find your shape, try not to fidget, but if you do start to feel something at all painful, any pinching, anything like that, please change up your shape. Just notice your left shoulder for a moment, and if it's hovering uncomfortably off the floor, you might choose to slide a bolster or a pillow, just whatever you have around for a little more support. coming out of this side, maybe one leg at a time, send them back towards the ceiling. And if you're ready for the second side straight away, start to scoot the hips over to the right a few inches, letting the legs lower down to the left. See what this side feels like. Again, same basic blueprint of whatever version of the shape you took on the first side, but please modify or add any extra support you need for this side. When we exit the second side of the twist, we'll take a gentle windshield wiper of the knees and then we'll set up a shape similar to a shoulder stand. So if you have any issues with the neck, the upper back, the shoulders, or for any reason you don't want to take the hips up much higher than the head, then you might choose to skip this last shape. If you prefer, you could take a bridge pose or a restorative bridge pose using your bolster under the hips. If you are comfortable coming to this shape, then you can bring your feet up onto the wall and just experiment with pressing them a couple of times, lifting the hips up off the floor. When you feel ready, lift the hips up and then walk the feet up so that you can have the shins roughly parallel and see if you can stack the knees roughly above the hips. I have the hands on the low back for support. Make sure that this feels okay for your shoulders. You could also have the arms extended to the floor. And from here, keep the head steady. Just follow the breath in and out a few times. When it comes time to exit, coming out the way you came in. So slowly sliding the feet down a little bit, letting the hips come down to the floor. When you feel ready, you might pause in stillness for a few breaths or roll onto one side and take a fetal position. You've been lying on the back for a little while with the legs lifted overhead, so giving the body as much time as it needs, but when you do feel ready, come and find a comfortable seated position. I'm going to use a bolster up against the wall and actually have my back gently resting against the wall. Find a comfortable place for the hands. Wherever they land is fine. If you like to take hands to the knees, then go for it. The parts of the body that are touching the floor, gently ground them down, lengthen the spine. Keep a little softness for the shoulders. Keep a little extra length for that back line of the neck. We'll end our practice with a short seated meditation, keeping the eyes closed or the gaze soft. Gently follow the breath in and out. And keeping the eyes closed if you can. And collect the hands in at your heart. Bound the chin into the chest. Thank you for sharing your breath in your practice. Namaste.